Greetings, it is I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue my expose on anime series, reviewing them, and then telling you some suggestions you can use to allow you to play them in your BESM games. Today I've got two more from last season, fall 2016, and a couple more from 2015. For last year's, I have Shakunetsu no Takyuu Musume, or Scorching Ping Pong Girls, and Long Rider. Let's talk about Scorching Ping Pong Girls. This is all about the world of middle school girls' ping pong clubs. We focus on Kyori, a transfer student to Suzugahara Middle School. And she is, at her old school, was known for her ping pong prowess. And she decides to join the club in this one. And so it's all about her adventures at a new school, in a new club, and working towards the championships for the ping pong club at her new school. And the fact that all these girls love ping pong a lot and enjoyed the game very much so. And have a great time while playing it. So as for the genres for this one, it's a sport. Ping pong is sort of a sport. I'll give it a sport. It's table tennis. It's sort of a tennis. You physically have to move. We'll give it sport. It's also a school. It's all about the school club that's playing it, and the fact that these students are going to school, enjoying their normal lives a little bit, and then going to the club and competing in these competitions for ping pong, and trying to overcome it and become champions. It's also a little bit of a comedy. There's some really funny and silly things that happen with the characters, and they're a very interesting group of characters. It's the unique attitude kind of characters they have that they establish them quite well very early on. I'd rate this one a 3. It's not going to jump at you too much, but it's a pretty good series, and I do highly recommend checking it out. I found it pretty entertaining. Now, if you're using this in a BESM game, I'd recommend 175 points. You're going to make your characters, of course, members of a girls' ping pong club in a middle school. You can have it Suzugahara. You can have it something else entirely for a middle school. But effectively, there will be a bunch of girls playing ping pong, working together to train together, to learn together, enjoying the game, and then going into competitions to try to get to the championships, to try to get better, to try to be better at ping pong. And each one of them is going to be developing their own reasons for joining the club originally, their own love of ping pong, and it's going to be important to help establish your characters, to establish why they're there for ping pong, and establish a little bit of their attitude when coming into playing the game and competing here. Now let's talk about Long Riders. Now Long Riders we focus on this girl Amy, who happened to see some people riding to college on bikes, like actual bikes, not motorcycles, bikes. So she decides that she wants to do that too herself. She's a college student. She feels like it's going to be a way for independence. She'd never done it. She gets a folding bike and begins to travel around on bike with her friend Aoi. The two of them then go on little adventures with bike riding and meet a number of people that are good at bike riding. And eventually she starts getting into road cycling, one of the cycling sports, and learning about it and becoming interested in it. And eventually forms her own team called Fortuna. Now for the genres for this one, I would call it, of course, a sport. It's road cycling it's all about. It's a team-based, cycling-based sport that they're competing in. Granted, it takes them a bit to get into it, but it's there, it's getting existence, they're building up to it. It's also a kind of slice of life. It shows them in their normal lives going to college, enjoying themselves, getting into these sort of like little situations where they were traveling around for a bit, and it's a little more just laid-back slice of life. And it's kind of a comedy series. There are little funny moments that are very entertaining that kind of draw you in and make you kind of get a little chuckle. Not like roll out laughter, but a little chuckle. Now I rate this one a 4. It's a pretty good series. I enjoyed it a lot. It was interesting take on the entire biking idea. It's not as powerful as some of the other sports-based animes. It's a little more laid back, which I enjoyed a lot. Now if you're using this in a BESM game, I recommend 150 points. You're going to make your characters, of course, college students, and they're going to be, of course, you're going to have your daily lives of them going to college, but you're also going to make them avid cyclists. Whether they're more professional or just new people diving into it and learning about it, they eventually will be forming together, and effectively at the beginning of the game, forming together as a road cycling team. And so you'll have your sort of normal just traveling around on bike, going to school. But then you'll have this sort of team-based thing where they're deciding to compete in road cycling as a group, working together to sort of better themselves and have fun while doing it too. Because that's a little bit about this one. It's less for the actual victory of it, and it's something interesting to do and fun to do. Something that your characters want to try out as a group because they can, and because maybe they're not bad at it, rather than being super great at it. So let's talk about the two from 2015 I want to introduce this time. Mikagura Gakuen Kumikyoku, and of course, Reikan. Now, Minagaku's school life, as it's actually is also called. So our series focuses on Aruna. She's a third-year junior high student, which wasn't planning on going to high school. This is until a cousin of hers shows her a flyer for the academy that he goes to. Effectively, it's a flyer that shows off it, and looking at it, she sees a picture of Seiza, this girl that goes there, and she's effectively infatuated with her, and decides she's going to go to this high school because she can meet pretty girls like her. She kind of likes girls. Good for her. But anyway, so she goes to Mikagura Private Academy. And while she's there, she learns that the place is dominated by culture clubs. Not really sports club, culture clubs. And members of the culture clubs learn these special powers and then use these special powers to compete for prestige of their clubs. So along the way, she eventually decides to make her own club and compete for it and basically get into these competitions because she finds she's actually quite adept at it. And she wants to sort of make a place for various people to share with her, time with her. Basically, she wants a club for the girls to hang out in the afternoon, and that's all she really wants. But she's trying to make this place for them and recruit a bunch of members along the way. So this is an action. They get special powers. They battle it out for the glory of their clubs, fighting in these various competitions and battles and little duels even. It's also a comedy. It's really kind of this ridiculous premise, and there's a ridiculous level about it, and Iruna is kind of silly in it. She's very obsessive and very, aggressive in her personality, and it oftentimes ends up for very silly moments. It's also a school-based anime. They are basically staying at a private school where they have dorms and such. They're living at that school. It is very much so a school anime. Now I rate this one a 4. I enjoyed it a lot. It was kind of silly, kind of funny, a little ridiculous at times, but not too much that didn't shove me away. Now, if you're using this at BESM game, I'd recommend 350 points. You can either make your characters members of the After School Paradise Club, Runa's Club, or they can come up with a club on their own. Some kind of club they're going to be members of, a cultural club, of course. And then they're effectively going to have special abilities, and they're going to battle for the glory of their club. Of course, they might compete a little bit with each other to sort of see who's going into various competitions at different times. But overall, they're going to be battling for the glory of their club, for prestige, for funding, for various things like that these competitions are going to be held for, and dueling with other clubs for space and in control of the school in a way, while being relatively friendly about it, making friends along the way, dealing with other clubs, being friendly with them, friendly competition, dealing with recruiting new members to their clubs, expanding it, but also dealing with your average school life a little bit. You're going to a school there, you're going to the private academy. You have to deal with your school life just a little bit to make it, balance out everything all together. So the last one I want to talk about is Reikan. Reikan focuses on Hibiki. She has a powerful sixth sense, so can sense things like ghosts and other supernatural beings, and kind of can communicate and deal with them. So that's always kind of plagued her through her life. She ends up transferring to a new school, and she finds out that none of her peers have an ability similar to her. But she begins to make some friends, and they begin to deal with her strange ability and the antics that it causes, her dealing with various ghosts and supernatural things around them that none of them can see and deal with. And so their friendships deepen, and they have little kind of funny events of dealing with the antics of Hibiki and dealing with what's going on with this supernatural thing that only she seems to be able to really interact with. Now, I call this one a comedy. It's pretty funny. It's got a lot of funny kind of things going on. They get in antics. It's a good way of describing what's going on with it. It's also supernatural. Hibiki has a sixth sense and deals with supernatural things and ghosts. I'd also call it, of course, a school. It's all about their school lives and them bonding together as students at the school, enjoying their times together and their youth. Now, I do rate this one only a 3. It's pretty funny, but again, I just didn't grab onto it as much as I could have possibly, but it's a still pretty good one I would recommend checking out. Now, if you're using in a BESM game, I'd recommend 170 points. You're going to make your group of characters traditionally going to be, they have supernatural powers, some kind of small supernatural power that each one will have a different one. But if they wanted to, they could play one of the normal straight characters. Once you've established the basics of the group, you have a few supernatural people, maybe all of your PCs, maybe not, and you would fill in the blanks with some normal students, some NPCs which are going to be normal, regardless of whether you have players which are going to be or not. And it's all going to be about them going to school and having sort of normal lives. It's these supernatural people are still going to have antics when it deals with supernatural, getting into situations where they're going to deal with ghosts and spirits and other supernatural things and have their little senses or abilities deal with them, but while still trying to be normal students in this world, trying to get along, deepen their friendships with their normal friends, deepen their friendships and their fun at school. Sort of, trying to be a normal person, even with disability, and succeeding at it, enjoying the time with your friends. So that's it for today. I introduced you to 4 more anime from the past couple of years that I would recommend checking out. They're pretty good watches, not bad ones, and I'd also recommend playing them in your BESM worlds. I gave you some great suggestions on how you could interpret them and use them in your BESM games to make new and interesting worlds that you can play in, new types of BESM games. But regardless, if you have any questions, comments, anything you say, anything you think I left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. It's just support our channel, the Empire, the work I do. If you want to show some extra support, you could always check out my Patreon, link in the description below. But regardless, until the next time, I bid you farewell.